Hello, Douglasville Ward. This is Bishop Miller. I wanted to share a tip with you on how to use the tagging function of Gospel Library. It's something that I've found useful in my gospel study, so just wanted to share it for any who might also find it helpful. So let me share my screen. And we're looking in Alma 32. So I am on our churchofjesuschrist.org website. This also works if you're in Gospel Library app on your device. So again, we're talking about tagging. So many of you are probably familiar with highlighting. Say there's the scripture here on faith. Faith is not to have a perfect knowledge of things. Therefore, if you have faith, ye hope for things which are not seen, which are true. I like the scripture, so I'm going to mark it or highlight it. And I might even add a note. This is an excellent scripture on faith. And I think many people know how to do this, highlight and add notes. I think fewer people are aware of tagging. So let's try that. Now that I've selected it, there's also this option here to tag. What this does is it indexes the scripture with based on the topic that I select. So I'm going to add a tag. I'm going to call it, I think I'm just going to call it faith. In other words, I'm making a topic in my own scripture notebook, virtual notebook, and this topic is faith. And every time I find a scripture that I like that explains faith, I'm going to tag it accordingly. All right, so that is tagged. Now, if I see the tag mark there, I tag the scripture. Now, if I leave my scriptures and I go to my library, we have this window here called Notes. I'll click on that. And I'll go to Tags. And there we see it. That's the category, the topic that I just created called Faith. When I open it, it takes me to the scripture in Alma 32:21. So as I find more and more scriptures that pertain to faith and I tag them, they will all be listed here. And I won't have to keep a separate notebook necessarily. It'll keep track of them all here. It'll also keep track of all of my notes that I write. And this is going to be synced with my tablet, my phone, or my PC that I'm using right now. So just as another example of how this could be useful, I wanted to share something, a little snippet from President Nelson, as he has been giving us multiple invitations. This is an invitation he gave us in our last general conference.
As you study your scriptures during the next 6 months, I encourage you to make a list of all that the Lord has promised he will do for covenant Israel. I think you will be astounded. Ponder these promises. Talk about them with your family and friends. Then live and watch for these promises to be fulfilled in your own life.
Okay. So there's an invitation from President Nelson. And I started doing that. I remember I just barely made this one on faith. Well, earlier I made one called, and I just called it His Promises to Covenant Israel. And already I have 50 scriptures, and I'm really just getting started. He said that we'd be astounded, and I am really surprised that the scriptures are packed with promises to those who keep his covenants, or promises to covenant Israel. So now I've got a running list of all the scriptures and general conference talks, really anything that's in Gospel Library, that I tag with this topic that I added, His Promises to Covenant Israel. And I can add notes as I like. And basically this will enhance my gospel study as I prepare for our next general conference. Thank you, and let me know if you have questions or if you have other ideas that might be helpful for us to share together.